Sadly, the name Baal appears 80 times in the Hebrew scriptures, and even more if you include the titles Baal Peor, Baal Zebub, Baal Zephon, and the list goes on and on. In Judges chapter 2, verse 13, we read, "So they forsook Yahuwah and served Baal and the Ashtaroth." Ashtaroth appears about 20 times or more and refers literally to the female deity known as Ishtar in Babylonia and Astarte, who is identified with the planet and deity Venus. Judges chapter 3 verse 7 reads, "Thus the children of Yisrael did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah and forgot Yahuwah their Elohim and served the Baalim or the Baals and the Asherim." In the King James Version, we read that they served the Baalim or the Baals and the groves. And that is because the term Asherim or Asherah in the singular literally means a sacred tree. Asherah or Asherim appears 40 times in the Hebrew scriptures. And in every situation in the King James Version, it is translated grove or groves. The term Asherah can be looked up in the Strong's Concordance under H833. It refers again to the groves of sacred trees that were planted in memory of Ashtaroth, the Babylonian female deity who was also worshipped by the Canaanites. She represented the consort of Baal, and the Asherah refers to any image of Asherah or the sacred trees and poles that were set up near her altars. 1 Kings chapter 14 verse 23, "For they also built for themselves high places and pillars and Asherim on every high hill and under every green tree." The heathens worshipped the sacred tree and performed ritual sacrifice under every green tree. Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2, "Thus said Yahuwah, do not learn the way of the nations, the Gentiles, the heathen, and do not be awed by the signs of the heavens. For the Gentiles are awed by them. For the prescribed customs of these people are worthless. For one cuts a tree from the forest, work for the hands of a craftsman with a cutting tool. They adorn it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers so that it does not topple." Yahuwah says, do not learn the way of the nations. Do not observe the signs of the heavens, such as the winter solstice. And do not chop down trees and use them in worship. Do not decorate them with gold and silver. Yahuwah is specific. He says, do not learn the way of the heathen. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 2. "Completely destroy all the places where the nations which you are dispossessing serve their mighty ones, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. And you shall break down their altars and smash their pillars and burn their Asherim, their sacred trees, with fire. And you shall cut down the carved images of their mighty ones and shall destroy their name out of that place. Do not do so to Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not put up a sacred tree, a sacred pillar to Yahuwah your Elohim." Exodus chapter 34, verse 13. "But break down their altars and smash their pillars and cut down their Asherim, their sacred trees. For you do not bow yourself to another mighty one." Yahuwah likens the worship and use of sacred trees to bowing to another mighty one. For Yahuwah, whose name is jealous, is a jealous El. Deuteronomy, "Do not plant for yourself any tree as an Asherah, a sacred tree, near the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, that you make for yourself. Do not set up a pillar which Yahuwah your Elohim hates." Yahuwah says that he hates the fact that the nations put up Asherim, sacred trees, and pillars. Yahuwah says, do not do so to him, and do not plant a sacred tree near his altar. Yet when you go into the Christian church during the time of the winter solstice, they have the sacred tree, the Yule tree, the Babylonian tree of life, the Yalda tree, which they call the Christmas tree, and it is sitting on what they call their altar. They even have the audacity to sing songs to the everlasting fir tree. The carol known as O Christmas Tree today was originally titled O Tannenbaum. Tannenbaum is the word for fir tree in the Germanic language.
O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum.
The carol was written in the 16th century as a folk song, referring to the everlasting fir tree that was used in the worship of Odin and Thor, who the Germanic people originally worshipped. And they decorated these fir trees during the winter solstice during December 25th. And when the Germanic people began to take on Christianity in the 19th century, they adopted the carol to the fir tree as a quote-unquote Christmas carol. Today, when it is sung in the English language, the term Christmas tree is inserted into the text, whereas the original song does not reference Christmas at all, and it never references the Messiah once. It is a carol to the fir tree. The Germanic people and many of the pagans did and still worship trees. All pagan cultures worship the sacred tree, the Asherah, and they do so by wrapping it with tapestries and decorating it, placing gifts at the base of the tree, and making petitions to the tree itself or the deity that the tree represents during this time, during the winter solstice. In 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 7, we read that the women wove hangings or tapestries for the Asherah, for the grove. So the women were making decorations, ribbons for the tree. We see in India, in the Hindu religion, that the worshippers of the Hindu deities will decorate trees. They will wrap them with ribbons. They will make petitions to the deities through the tree, and they will place gifts at the base of the tree. Similar practices are done in all pagan religions, even to this very day. The Zoroastrians, who claim that their religion is about 4,000 years old, still worship Mithra and celebrate Yalda. And during Yalda, they decorate the sacred tree, and they do so in a like manner as the Hindus. Also, we see the Wiccans who practice witchcraft. The Wiccan religion is generally a revival of the ancient pagan religion of the Europeans. And these Wiccans will celebrate Yule in honor of the deity Woden or Odin, and they will make altars at the base of trees and make petitions to the deities and make various wishes. Interestingly enough, if you ask the average so-called Christian in America and around the world, why do they use the Christmas tree? They cannot give you a rational answer, and they definitely cannot give you a scriptural answer. Anything that they may give you is philosophy and vain deceit. And the really sad part is, at this time, during the information age, the average Christian not only doesn't know this, but doesn't even care, while their leaders fully admit to the pagan origins of Christmas.
Of course, you've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this Christmas trees and all the wreaths and all the garlands and all the mistletoe, every bit of them come from Teutonic paganism. They are not an integral part of Christianity. And so for the Seattle airport to say, well, this is a Christian display, is no such thing. It is not a Christian display. It is winter solstice. So if they put up a sign and said, we celebrate winter solstice like the Teutonic gods of Thor and Woden, they'd probably be more accurate. The winter solstice a couple of days later was the shortest day of the year, and the pagans had something called Saturnalia. And it was a time of lawlessness because all the laws were suspended. And people, a bunch of singers who actually wandered the streets naked singing. And then they had orgies, sexual orgies. It was a mass thing. Well, when the Catholic Church came along in Italy, the Romans and others didn't want to give up their holidays. So they said, okay, we'll Christianize it. And so they said, okay, we'll say the birth of Jesus was the 25th of December. All this business about mistletoe, pagan, Christmas trees, pagan. Giving out gifts, pagan. Every bit of it is pagan. Every single bit of it is pagan. We've Christianized it all. And so that's good. And so we have time, we celebrate for Jesus. Everybody gets all misty-eyed. But the truth is, they're all pagan.
Again, the Asherah is the Babylonian tree of life. It is used in magic and rituals to this very day. It is a key symbol in the use of Kabbalah. It is a representation of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, though they call it the tree of life. It represents the everlasting phallic of Nimrod. And every time one chops down a tree and brings it into their home, or goes to the nearest convenience store and purchase a plastic tree to decorate it with gold and silver balls, they are worshiping Nimrod, and they are honoring his everlasting phallic symbol. The lights on the tree represent the everlasting light of the sun deity. The angel on top is a key feature in today's Christmas tree. In the scriptures, we never see a malach, a messenger, who is called an angel in the Greek and Roman languages. We never see one represented as a female. However, we often see female angels in the Roman Catholic Church, and those are representations of Semiramis, who is Ashtaroth, Ishtar, Astarte, and the list of her names go on and on. In Assyria, the Babylonian tree of life is decorated with golden pine cones, and on top of the tree we see the image of Asher, who is the symbol of Baal, or literally Mithra, in the ancient world, a representation of the sun deity. Sometimes we will see a 5-pointed star on top of the Babylonian tree of life to represent Venus. Other times we will simply see the sun itself, an image of the sun. It is not uncommon to see the Phrygian cap, the cap of Mithra, on top of the Asherah, the Christmas tree, or the representation of Mithra himself through Old Father Tom himself, Santa Claus, who is called Santa Claus today. It is common to find reliefs in ancient Babylon which depict the priest of Dagon, the fish deity, who would become the chief deity of the Babylonians, and they would be decorating the Babylonian tree of life. It is interesting because we see that Dagon and his priest wear the fish hat, the Mitre of Dagon, which is the official mitre or hat of the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. This mitre is also worn by Sinterklaas, which is Santa Claus in the Dutch language. The ancient pagans also erected symbols known as matsaba, which are obelisks. Obelisks are used in the worship of Nimrod, just as the tree is. It is a phallic symbol. It was thought to have originated in Egypt. However, today we know that it originates in Babylon. And you can see the matsaba, the obelisk, in Washington, D.C. You see it in St. Peter's Square. You see it in London, and you see it on top of nearly every single Christian church and Roman Catholic building in the world. In ancient Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, the obelisk was used to worship the sun deity Ra and used as a sun dial. It was also used to honor Osiris. The religion of Egypt has it that Osiris was chopped into little pieces and his body parts were scattered throughout the empire, just like the legend of Nimrod. And his reproductive organ was thrown into the Nile and it was swallowed by a fish, which became Dagon of the Philistines. However, getting back to Osiris, he was commemorated by his wife, who found all of his pieces except for his reproductive organ with the obelisk to represent his reproduction and fertility. The Egyptians also decorated trees to honor Osiris. they decorated palm trees and whatever they had that would stay green during the time of the winter solstice. The Roman Catholic Church has an obelisk at St. Peter's Square at the Vatican, which was imported from Egypt and originally used to worship the sun deity Ra. During the winter solstice, during their Christ Mass, the Roman Catholic Church will erect a Christmas tree in Vatican City in St. Peter's Square beside the obelisk which they had imported from Egypt. And you will see that the Christmas tree is in the shape of the obelisk. And many would wonder why they would do this. Perhaps it's because they know something that you don't. The Christmas tree and the obelisk are used in the worship of the ancient demons and devils of the Roman Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, and the list goes on and on.